What is going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to the Working People's Podcast. I'm James Hollingsworth, and back, I'm telling you, back, my buddy, my friend, the homie is back with us tonight. Come on, tell him who you are.
Hi, good evening now. My name is Russ Jensen.
Russ.
Happy to be here.
Russ is back with us, man, and we got, once again, a hot topic. Not hot pocket, but a hot topic. So we want to welcome you once again to the Working People's Podcast, where everybody desires to build generational wealth and a financial legacy for their family. If you're watching via YouTube, do us a favor, press that subscribe button and press the notification bell. Ring it. Ding, 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 ding. Throw us some thumbs up over there and also drop some comments below if you're watching here on my personal Facebook page. Well, do the same. Go ahead and throw us some thumbs up, some hearts, drop some comments in the comment section, because we're going to be talking about a house divided against itself. My goodness, it's going to be a great topic, great conversation tonight. So if you're watching via my personal Facebook page right here, us live, go ahead and press that thumbs up like button. And once again, share the video. Once we get into it and you start thinking about people that could really use this conversation that we're talking about tonight, share it with them. Also, if you're watching on the Working People's Podcast page, do all the above, do the same. And once again, shout out to Second Friendship Missionary Baptist Church and Rodney Williams, because we're streaming live to the ship, the SHIP, baby, the ship. Thank you, Rodney Williams and Second Friendship. We appreciate you all. This is going to be a great conversation. One more quick shout out, Russ. I haven't done this in a while. Shout out to, can you see the name? My Swaco, who provides our drill mud for our boring operations at our company. Shout out to you all for making sure that we're able to get that pipe in the ground and we're able to make sure that our customers continue to get their gas, their natural gas. So thank you to my Swaco. A shout out to you. So let's get into it, man. Let's go ahead and Will Smith slap you right in the face. So Russ, what do you think would be a great conversation for us to have? And you remember what you told me?
Yeah, well, we were talking and I thought that a good topic would be family, and as it relates to how a person can, well, grow exponential wealth and or be wealthy and have financial freedom.
Yes. And also, are there some problems and issues that can arise in the family structure, in the relationship of a marriage, that that people need to communicate about? So we really wanted to kind of address some of those things to help people and to provide a conversation that can help people to begin to really take on an active listening role when they're talking about these sensitive and critical matters, so that they can reach their goals together, because that's what we're about. Family, I believe it, and I've said it over and over again, is the foundation to building generational wealth. And because of that, we want to make sure that usually if something falls apart, it implodes because of something that happened on the inside, internally. And so tonight we want to talk about some of those things that you can avoid so that your relationship continues to grow, be strong, you and your partner continue to build together. And I know some folks saying they don't want to build a boo and they tired of this struggle love. But come on, anything that's worth having is worth fighting for. That right there should get a whole bunch of likes and a whole bunch of amens in the comment section. What'd you think about that, Russ?
I'm trying to like it right now, and I'm gonna heart it too.
That is fantastic. And make sure that you're sharing this with your friends, family, your cousins and them, your aunties and your uncles, and, you know, Pookie round the block. Share it with him because he may need it, especially if he keep fooling around having all these children and not having no, anyway, not married. So get it together, Pookie. Gotta stop it, man. Come on. We're trying to build generational wealth through family over here on the Working People's Podcast. All we're trying to do is hope you.
Amen.
So, Russ, I want to ask you a question, my brother.
Okay.
Before I say what I think, what do you think if you had to put something at the top of the list begins to be like the number one thing that causes arguments or causes problems and conflict in the relationship?
I would say probably at the end of the day, a lot of it boils back to communication.
Woo.
So whether or not, it's understanding the message that you're trying to convey or even a miscommunication, I think a lot of struggles, speaking personally, in my own marriage, a lot of times the things that we struggle with somehow or another revolve around communication or like,
Yeah. Remember you and I were talking about, and you hit me with a question, and I thank God I got it right. But you talked about active listening.
yeah.
And to me, I get a thought in my head of what that means. But tell me from your perspective, when you say active listening, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think a lot of times, myself included, we like to hear our own self say things.
Mm,
And when you're in a conversation and dialogue occurs, a lot of times it's actually more of like I think an acquired skill that you have to work
yeah.
on,
Yeah.
how to actually listen, because a lot of times, you probably have had conversations with a spouse or a friend or a person, and you can see that they're already trying to form whatever they're going to say in rebuttal to what you're going to say before you finish
Yeah.
the sentence. So when it comes to being an active listener, it's actively engaging yourself in the conversation
Yes.
and trying to understand, what the person is saying, and then being slow to speak. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about is, stuff like, we're ourselves are not perfect when it comes to this stuff. So it's kind of funny to say it out loud and to people, that are listening, but it is a skill that you need to practice, because
Practice.
it's easy to say things, but
Yeah.
we talk about, you can even see it if you're ever driving. A prime example, you ever been driving down a road and you see somebody, and when they're driving they'll go really fast and then they'll slow down and they'll go really
Yep. I hate that. Oh,
you know why that happens?
no.
Because your brain, when it's talking, it's easy, but when you actually have to think and hear what somebody's saying, you actually have to slow down, and you can't really do two simultaneous things.
Wow. That's
So
good, Russ.
most of the time most people can't multitask. So when it comes to like, they're talking, they're speeding up, but when they're trying to listen, that's when they're slowing down, because their brain is trying to comprehend what a person's saying.
That's good. So I'm curious if anybody in the comment section, if you could drop in the comment section, what do you think the number one thing that couples argue or fight about? Now, you know me, I'm a statistics guy, so I already looked up some stats, right? But I just want to hear from you all. Tell us, what do you think? Drop it in the comment section. Is the number one thing that couples argue about, especially couples that have children. Especially couples that have children. So, Russ, because I asked you, I say, Russ, do you want me to show you the slide before? He's like, no, I'll roll with it. So what do you think it would be the number one thing that couples would argue or have fights about, couples, especially those that have children?
Well, speaking, we're both fathers of, multiple children. I have three. So I would say for me, it would have some, the easy answer is probably going to be finances.
That'd be the easy answer. Okay.
Yep. But I would say a second would be probably somewhere along the lines of just the challenge of being a parent, to be honest.
Wow. That's good. Yeah.
For me, we struggle sometimes with trying to manage, the good cop, bad cop thing. Like, you both can't be mad. You both can't be easygoing. But when like, it's usually like, man, you got to calm down. Well, I am calm. And then you got
Right.
to that balance. That's in my personal life. That's what I find is one of my struggles. But I would probably say a married couple with kids is probably going to either argue about finances or with kids.
I am calm. I am calm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about to show you what the number one thing that people argue about in a relationship. And this is probably it may surprise you, Let's see. Yeah, it may surprise you a little bit. So, a house divided against itself, the scripture in Matthew 12:25. And I think, did I pull that up? Or did I pull it? There it is. The scripture in Matthew 12:25. Jesus said, knowing their thoughts, Jesus said to them, every kingdom divided against itself will be laid waste, and every city or household divided against itself will not stand. Right out of the mouth of Jesus. So these are editor's notes from which originally appeared in July of 2016. I also found some subsequent studies that were done in around 2018, and they were all consistent with each other. But this is from the Institute for Family Studies about what are married couples with children most likely to argue about. No, it isn't money. Wow. Surprise, Russ?
Actually, I'm very surprised.
Nor is it being too tired for sex, nor is it about caring for the children. Although all of these are frequent subjects of marital disagreement, the most common area of contention is chores and responsibilities. Wow.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps.
Did that catch anybody by surprise? Anybody? Chores and responsibilities. And we're going to get into why that is the case. Nearly half of couples with kindergarten-aged children, 49% said they argued about chores and responsibilities often or sometimes. That's very interesting. So, let us look at this. So here's the thing. 68% of students living with married birth parents had mothers that were in the labor force, getting paid, working a job. All right. So because of that, the primary reason for arguments about chores is the clash between, you ready for this? Traditional division of labor along gender lines. Male the breadwinner, female the homemaker. So that in itself, that traditional mindset about who earns the most money, who should be at home taking care of the kids and doing this and taking care of the house, look and viewing those traditional roles in the home, right? And the modern reality that most mothers with young children work for pay outside the home. What did we say? 68%, right? Sometimes they're even earning more money than their male partners do. So in the national sample of kindergartners, once again, 68% of the students living with parents, both married birth parents, had mothers who were in the paid labor force, with 37% having both parents working full time. So by contrast, 31% had fathers who worked full-time and mothers who were full-time homemakers. So the number one thing that they argued about was chores and responsibilities in the house. And here's a chart. Once again, this is from the Institute for Family Studies, and the original study was done in 2016. This shows U.S. married couples with kindergarten-age children and what they argue about in order of frequency. So chores and responsibilities, 49. You see that, Russ? A whopping 49%. And it outpaced money by what's that math?
Six.
6%. So money was 43%.
Oh,
So right behind chores and responsibilities was money, 43%, and then you nailed it, Russ, at 41% children. Now I didn't put it in the slide presentation, but the study also said that for those who answered that they argue often, 47% of them describe their relationship as, make sure I got it. When they said often they had these type of arguments often, only 47% describe their overall relationship as very happy. So hit me with the math. You know I don't do math real good in my head. So that means 53%. So 53% said they were not happy. Those that argued often about these things. So right here, I would say this should be a red flag to say we should make sure that we avoid having these conflicts and arguments, because 53% of the people that often have these arguments and these disagreements, they have described their relationship as being not happy. That was a lot, Russ. So you got to jump in and just give me your perspective, because that was a lot. That was a mouthful. That was a lot to take in. 49% argued about chores and responsibilities, 43% money, and 41% children.
so secret time.
Secret time.
Now that the way that you explained that, my wife and myself, that is I would say one of our common touch points when it comes to the roles part, because she's a stay-at-home mom, and so with our children being at home, and then I work, it's one of those things. It is a pain point at times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to explain it like that, I can see definitely how that could impact families, especially with the roles thing, because one of the common kind of the theme is like, you get time off when you're not working, as from the mother's perspective, or the person that stays at home's perspective. It could
Ooh.
be, they don't have air quotes an off time.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like trying to balance that is still a struggle in my own personal life. But yeah, I could see how that is a statistic. That's where it's
Wow.
at.
If anybody's listening right now, those that are listening, can you throw us some hearts on that one? Because how many of you have either said it or you've heard your spouse say that? You get a break. You get breaks, you get lunches, you get time off work. I don't get a break. Come on now, y'all. Yeah, the heart. I've heard it. The heart should be going crazy right now on that one, because that is a valid sentiment.
Yeah, and it's a struggle, because like, I don't want to discredit other jobs. I'll just speak for myself. There's times in my own personal life where my job is very stressful, and then
Yes.
I also have air quote side hustles that also occupy my time.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to balance that, and then balance being a father or a mother, and then balance, trying to manage a house. I understand my wife's frustration. I sometimes, that goes back to that kind of like active listening. Like I get it, and then there's still the side of me where it's like, that's where the fight occurs. How to balance that? It becomes very difficult. To try to
Man, good Lord, Russ, when I think about those top three things, and now guess what's number 4 on the list? I don't know if I need to pull it back up or not again.
right?
Huh? No, number 3 was children.
Oh,
Number 1 was chores and responsibilities. Number 2 was money. Number 3 was children. Let me pull it back up. Number 4, right behind that. You ready for this?
being too tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being too tired for intimacy.
Yep.
And then right behind that, closely coming up right behind it at number 5 is spending leisure time together.
Yeah.
And then the in-laws. But number 4 is, I mean, you think about it, arguing about chores, responsibilities, arguing about money, the children, and now coming way pretty high on the list is just not having enough energy and just being tired and exhausted and being too tired for intimacy.
Yep.
Whew. Thank God I ain't married. Jesus. Whew, Lord. And anybody that suggested I do it, y'all gonna have to pray for a brother, cause that, whew, there's a lot. Whew, there's a lot. Oh my God.
Wow. A lot to unpack.
I know, right. That's a lot to unpack. I'm sitting here, I got so many thoughts in my head right now. I'm like, man, that's a lot. And 68% of the mothers they work in the labor force, and I think it said like 37% work full time.
Yep.
I mean full time, with a high majority of them being the breadwinners in their home. So man, that is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I really would like to hear from the ladies. Ladies, if any of you would drop in the comment section, tell us, how do you think, tell us your point of view of how can men help out more. We need to hear from you. Tell us and be honest. No, remember, this is all about, we no cap zone here. Y'all know how we do. No cap. Just let us have it. Tell us, how can we help more? How can we be more of a support when you also have to work sometimes, many times, full time outside of the home? And Russ nailed it. I mean, that was the sentiment. I think I felt that right here when you said it, because I've heard it before myself and heard it from friends. I don't get a break. You get a break. I don't get a break. Being a mother is a full-time job in itself. And so tell us in the comment section, how do you think? We'd like to hear from you. And so men can hear from you, from your heart. How can men help out more? Has your wife expressed any like specific things, Russ, to you that you feel comfortable that you can share maybe?
So secret time. I struggle with separating when I'm home, being home, and not being distracted with other things in my life. The work stuff and all the other things that are going on. So I struggle being, for lack of a better word, present. And so that's always one of the things that, when she talks to me about stuff is, let's focus on this. Let's, establish some sort of a routine where we're together. Because
that's
we're
great.
Together, but it's like, you have your phone, we're together and I'm looking at my phone and you're trying to have a conversation. What kind of message is this? And if your kids are trying to actively talk to you and see how your day went, or they got something on their mind that they are trying to communicate with you, and your attention is, distracted on, device or technology, or just you're present but you're not. That seems to be one of the common things that we discuss for our relationship. But I don't know if
that's good. I mean, I've heard a lot of women express that, like, when you're here, sometimes you're not here. And I think a lot of that is a man's need to kind of unwind and process his day and detach himself from his day, and reconnect himself back in his home life, if I could say it that way. Deja made a good point. She, in the comment section, she said, I heard on a radio show earlier that a stay-at-home mom was not just exhausted, she was actually depressed, which contributed to her inability to keep the house done. That's good. I know, ladies, y'all got supposed. Come on, give it to us. Let us have it. We need to hear from the ladies. The brothers need to hear from the sisters, from the women, on How can we help out? Tell us, because I wonder if it gets communicated like that, or does it come out in frustration on both sides? Does that make sense for us? So when it talks about these arguments over chores and responsibilities, whereas if you sat down and got your little thing on the wall and you can write out who's going to do what on what days and really plan it out like that, that would probably take a lot of the stress out. But that's too simple to do, right? I think a lot of times it's just easier just to express our frustrations in the moment, because as we're busy, then we also become too busy really to write things down, and too busy really to spell out a plan that's specific and detailed. So
I think, we, through our work, we have different problem solving tools that
yes,
we're trained on. And typically our tools are used in more of a safety environment, but one of the tools that we have is called the cycle of mistrust. The cycle of mistrust, if you can imagine, draw it really quick.
Oh yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that. So yeah, you definitely should have.
Pardon my drawing, but you have two circles, and this is the one party, and this is the other party. So as you go around the circle, the person observes the action of the bottom person, and then they form an assumption and they take a negative action.
Wow.
This person sees a negative action that this person had, and they form an assumption, and then they take their protective action. So you start going around the circle. If I see that I'm not, or my wife sees that I'm not present, she starts to form her assumption. And
right.
Decides, I'm just not going to talk to him. And then I see she's not talking to me, and I think, well, she's just upset or whatever, and then I just leave her alone. Instead of, we could break this communication right here and just talk.
Wow.
But we fail to use that. A lot of times we fail because a lot of our problems, once again, you started off the podcast talking about it, was around communication.
Yes.
With communication. In this tool, you would be surprised, even in a workplace scenario, how often a lot of it is just them from just, if they would have just talked from the beginning.
Man.
So forming their assumption that the person is a bad employee and they don't care about rules.
Right.
They do whatever they want. 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. And very few people show up to work to do a bad job.
That's true.
There's something there that all they had to do was communicate. And that's the same thing with our relationships. So, we talk about that communication. And a lot of times, not all the time, the message is going to be a good one. But you still have to be receptive to hear the message.
That's good, Russ. Man, that right there is priceless. That's you dropping some jewels there. And one thing I thought about as you were talking is I thought about some pointers or some tips, and I think one of the things that causes these arguments or disagreements is lack of planning or poor planning, or just not really talking about expectations, and not having those conversations. And then when we start making life decisions, especially when those decisions surround large purchases that are going to require a commitment of our future finances through credit or debt, those decisions, man, even though they may seem like they're laced with joy today, especially if it's coming about buying a house or a car, those decisions later on, when things get tight, inflation hits 8.6%, those same decisions that were made when interest rates were low can now be points of contention. You know what I'm saying? You feeling me?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we really don't think long term about when we're making these large purchases. And one of the things I thought about, Russ, was how many people are, I call it house poor. But now people that are in the financial space, they've lightened that term so that people won't be so, stabbed in the heart about it. And they call it house burden. House burden. But they often buy what they qualify for and not buy what they can afford. And then when life starts happening, somebody gets laid off, the wife gets pregnant, she has to be home for an extended period of time, or maybe she wants to be off work the first couple years of the children's life, whatever the case may be. like we say, cost starts going up, other things starts happening. Maybe you didn't get that promotion in 6 months like you thought, and now your income didn't go up 10% like you thought it was. And so I think a lot of times when it comes to a house, I think just the house itself and the cost of just doing life together, bills, mortgage, because a lot of people, they really don't think about what percentage of my income am I really allotting to this house. But I don't know, give me your thoughts on that.
So I think society, I'll generalize the group, but I think we're, a lot of us, I mean, we're separated by a number of years. Okay.
Yes.
So we're on kind of different ends of the spectrum. I'm into my parenting, and you're kind of, as
Yeah, I'm on the backside of that.
you got grandchildren, things like
Yeah.
that. So we're kind of different perspectives, but I think a lot of times we are so accustomed to being in instant gratification society, which then what that causes people to do is they try to, I don't want to say compete, but they look at like what maybe their parents had, and they try to have what their parents had, but it took their parents 30 years to acquire.
Oh my God, yes.
So then they try to get to that point right away, and then what that does is it just causes people stress, because it's not really keeping up with the Joneses, but there's just a certain level of like, what is success, and I think some people they're programmed to think that if I don't have a car, house by the time I'm 30, and I have 4 kids and my family's already good, I'm failing. And so then they put that internal pressure on them, and really, I once heard, I think it was my father-in-law actually told me when we were talking about when I was going to propose and stuff like that, and he said, like, there's never going to be a good time that you're ready, or
right.
If you're waiting for everything to be perfect, you're never going to really have that. Same with children. If you're waiting for to get the raise or whatever, there's never really going to be a great time. But that doesn't mean that you need to rush that and cram that into a window for you to be successful. So you have to kind of manage that. And if it is, I'm not going to get married till I'm 30 because I want to finish college. They're taking their career and starting that before they want to get their family in order, and then they're systemic. But when we hear that, we think that the person's different, and that's not always. They're just planning and following their plan.
Man, Sarah wrote a great comment. She said, you know that name, don't you, Sarah?
Yeah, I know.
Sarah said, ask. This is great. Ask what you can do to take something off her plate. Man, that's awesome. Proactive, right? She will have things that you can do, and she always has stuff to do. It's always got something to do. It's like, Deja, she said having a date night and planning that's important. Sarah also said check on her mentally in a judgment-free zone, because even if she says she's okay, she's probably not. Whew, I can raise my hand and say that would be the truth, And I don't know. I think sometimes we got to use what is it called, Russ? When they talk about this love languages and stuff, and they yeah, and they talk about using word pictures and finding a different creative way to communicate. And I don't think that men are incapable of doing it. Man, I'm about to shoot us in the foot. I'm sorry, fellas, but it's a no cap zone. So I just think that a lot of times the men get selfish and they're thinking about, well, I'm tired and I had a long day. And I really think that they bring it all about them. I'm making the money, I'm doing this, and I'm bringing my check home. That's our way of showing love. I brought my check home. And so we really get into performance mode. we get into performance. I show my love by the fact that I did get up and go to work. Sorry, fellas. Hey, it's a no cap zone, so I got to be real and keep it 100. I do that with the ladies. I got to do that with us. It is what it is. And so I think sometimes it just comes down to just being selfish.
Well, I think too, we're also programmed. I would say I should probably program whatever. As a man, I'll just speak for myself. Like that, like I have goals when it comes to like I want to provide for my family.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and maybe they're not being necessarily selfish, but they could just be there in their mind. They're doing the right thing because they're providing. And
yes,
it goes back to those like, you have a preconceived notion of what your spouse should be doing, but that maybe is not necessarily, what they're supposed to be doing. Like not every spouse is supposed to be stay-at-home parent. That doesn't fit for everybody.
That doesn't fit for everybody.
There's some people that do need to be out working, and to feel that like being around. Just think about it. Being around children all day.
Mm-hmm.
What could that do to a person, male or female? And so understanding when you talk about like, that's I'm guilty of it. Like I'm you have a roof over your head, you got a vehicle, you got you can pretty much do whatever you want. And when it comes to like that is like my way of feeling like a man.
Right.
And it's you have to you do have to kind of,
and maybe selfish was a strong word. Maybe just looking at things through a bird's eye view. Yeah. Maybe that's a better way of saying it, because we do a lot of times as men, we get tunnel vision.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and also let's talk. You kind of called things out, but typically, when you talk about a person, they usually live within like 100 miles of where they grew up. Your average net worth is what your 5 closest friends' net worths are.
Ooh, so yes.
If you see your parents, if they grew up in a 2-parent system and the mother stayed at home and the father worked, now you have a daughter that grows up and a son. The son is going to see what his dad went to work. The daughter is going to see her mom stayed home. So that in their household is what normal looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So he grows up and he grows up. Wife's gonna stay home. She's gonna stay home. Husband's gonna work. The son, his wife's gonna stay at home and raise the kids, because that's what I saw my dad do. Doesn't mean that it's right. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just what we see. It's one of those things with culture, or what we only know that. So if you only know your parents, your mom staying at home and your dad working, that's what you're gonna assume is normal.
Yeah. Whew. Another thing I thought about too is when I mentioned about the home and that just taking on too much, financially, because we want the nicest car, the nicest house, we want all of that, and maybe some of that is we want to one up, our neighbors. I don't really know. That's kind of a strong way of saying it. But also another thing I thought about was when it does come down to really those large purchases that we have to make, whether it's a cash purchase or a credit purchase, whatever the case may be, is we really need to start sitting down together and planning that type of spending and setting some time frames to it, and setting up maybe a strategy on how we're going to save to reach that goal. Are we going to go into debt to do it? Or are we going to pay cash? If we're going to pay cash, are we going to put down a certain percentage? And really having that conversation, because I'm telling you, man, I'm not married anymore, but when I was married, that was not something that we did. And then oftentimes, most of my friends are married. I was asked today, in fact, Deja, she asked me about how many of my close circle of friends were married. I said most of them. Very few of them are not married. And even in that, just my connection with a lot of people, I see that a lot of couples, they don't really sit down and have those level of conversations about making large purchases. It could be a washer and dryer that's going to cost, $2,500, or a refrigerator that's going to cost $3,500, or it's going to be some home repairs that you want to make to the bathroom, and that's going to cost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And a lot of times we just don't sit down and have those conversations, like you said, Russ, and really lay out, this is how we're going to do it and plan it. Because I think we just look in the account, we see the money's there, let's do it.
Yeah. And we talked like this morning about this. Sorry, I'm outside. I got some moss. But we were talking earlier about, like one of the kind of the things that what my mindset was is if you're really trying to achieve generational wealth,
Mm-hmm.
and you are a two family household, two parent and
Yeah, yeah.
household. It takes both parents, both people being lockstep in whatever vision that you have for your family. So if one is more risk aggressive and the other is more conservative, it's okay to have the two different dynamics because that balances each other out. But
That's good.
the part that goes back that we spoke about earlier and we keep kind of resurfacing to is the communication piece to it.
Mm.
Not necessarily selling your partner on, hey, I got this next great plan for where we're going, but it's making sure that not only they understand what's going on, but they're more or less kind of, I guess, not really a part of it, but they feel comfortable doing it because you guys have communicated the idea. And it's
Yes.
not just, hey, this is what I'm doing, but it's also, hey, let's talk about this. Here's the pros and cons. Here's how it lines up with our end goal. If we can get to this point here, then it just continues to build and grow.
Yes.
Giving them that information, the kind of the why behind what you're saying. And I think that also helps because if you're not
Yeah.
lockstep, that will be a hindrance, and then they won't be on board. And then the first time there's any struggle or any kind of struggle in a business opportunity, they're the first person to say like, "Oh, see, I told you it was a bad idea." But if they're supporting you in what you're doing, then they're going to be
Yes.
walking
Yes.
beside you, and you can walk through those problems together and overcome them. Because every business has those struggles. It's not always bullish. It's
Facts.
there's times when there's peaks and valleys, and you have to understand, hey, maybe it's something we just need to adjust. There's things that aren't in our control, and you conquer the problem and you move on. But if you're not
Facts.
locked up in that, that's also where things can break apart, and you can go your separate ways if you're not careful.
Facts. You brought something to mind. So Patrick Bet Davis. Have you ever heard of Patrick Bet Davis? David, sorry, Patrick Bet David. He has a company that he owns where he does YouTube stuff, Valuetainment. He also started a insurance company, and I was trying to find the name of it because off the top of my head, I couldn't remember the name of the insurance company that he started. But anyway, he started an insurance company, so he's a very wealthy man. But through Valuetainment, he's interviewed a lot of, very well-known celebrities and successful people. He's interviewed Kobe Bryant. I mean, anybody that, A-list celebrities, people in the business world, people in the military. He's interviewed all types of people. And one thing that he said, he was on the Roommates podcast with Chris and Hafiz. And in the conversation, they were talking, and they asked him about what he attributed his success in marriage and his relationship to be. And one of the things that he put at the top of the list was managing expectations. How both parties, especially if you're, the husband and what we traditionally call the leader in the relationship, you really have to communicate well what your expectations are and manage those, as well as hearing from her what are her expectations of you in terms of your leadership, if you're providing whatever that whatever your unique roles look like in your relationship. And so I thought that was like very, very spot on. He says we should even do that before we get married. And we should certainly do that, not just early on in marriage. He says, but we have to continue to do that throughout our marriage. Is we have to continue to manage expectations and always talk about things in a futuristic perspective, if that makes sense. To always talk about if we make this decision today, what are our expectations and how we're going to deal with this in the future through different scenarios that may happen, and laying that foundation so that if something does happen, you can go back to that managing expectations conversation. You can say, hey, this is what we agreed upon. And that helps. He said that really helped to solve, he said, like 95% of any issues that they may have had. He also talked about what was it he said? What he called it? He talked about how you can begin to be a better communicator by really looking at how well you handle conflict resolution. He said so many people are very poor at conflict resolution because they're really not looking to solve the problem as much as they're looking to be heard about their point and perspective.
Yeah. I agree.
Woo! I know that was good. That was a lot, wasn't it? Man, that was a lot.
Yeah,
and what we want you to do, I'm gonna say this again real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to you, Russ. Is hey, if as we've been having this conversation, if you could think of some people that's close to you in your life that may need to hear this conversation, share this with them. Like I said, when you share the video, you can share it right to your specific Facebook page or whatever. You can also send this to someone specifically to them through Messenger. You can send it to them through through a text message, but share this video with somebody that can really benefit from this conversation and this topic that we're talking and having tonight. But yeah, Russ, what do you think about that? Those things that Patrick Davis says.
I do think it's important to continuously check in. I think it's important to. I am the I guess what it would be the eternal optimist. I have always thought of it as with an entrepreneurial mindset of it's going to work out and this is how it's going to benefit, and it's going to be continuously building on going forward with the vision.
Yes.
I would say that's worked out.
Whew.
That's how my mindset is
Yeah.
trying to understanding like this is what my goal is, so I can see how for success it's like a progress report as you're continuously moving on. And I've heard like different relationship gurus talk about a couple different things. Number one, when we refer to the love languages, we tend to love people in the way that we feel loved, and that's not always true. So if your spouse or significant other is a quality time and you are a physical touch, so you feel loved by the intimacy side, and your significant other likes to go on date nights,
Yes.
and that's how they feel loved, you're going to continuously miss the mark on showing love to your spouse. I've also heard
Wow.
relationship experts that talk about how it's important for them, like every year they'll go out on a date type of a trip, and then they'll talk about their goals for the year, what went well and what didn't go well from the previous year, and they plan their year forward.
Wow.
And they'll even work out like a quasi budget for the year and things that they want to do, and then that's their planning event, but that's the two of them taking a couple days out, and that's where they're building that. So it kind of falls in line with what you're saying when you're talking about continuously making sure that you're hitting the mark. Because if the ring's not hitting the ground, then it's not really beneficial. If
Wow.
we always talk about the future and we never actually see if we're actually there, I mean, it's just a continuous moving target. But if we can have periodic check-in points where we're, hey, like, how's it going? Are
Wow.
you comfortable with where we're at with this? And then, like I said, with the other group that works on their yearly plan and doing a kind of a recheck on how the year went. And if
Yeah.
it's not, then we can change stuff. Maybe it isn't. Maybe we need to tone back, or maybe we need to start saving more, or maybe we need to diversify in a different field, or whatever it is. But if you're not collectively talking about that, and it's got to be everything out in the open. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you can't really
Absolutely.
be secretive about it. And it is what it is. I mean, you gotta rip the Band-Aid off. If it's bad, let's form a plan and we can get better. But until you know what the bottom is, you're not going to be able to build the foundation.
Yes. Yes. Um, Pastor Brian Pruitt from the church that I attend, he said something. He and his wife just celebrated, I want to say it was their 27th wedding anniversary. And he said, I hope I get this right. I don't want to ruin it. He said that, oh my God, what did he say? It was something about growing together. I almost want to go and see if I could find it. But it was something about, he said, when we stop doing something, he said we stop growing together. And I think that is, you hear people saying we grew apart. And what does that really mean? You grew apart. Does that mean that, what I'm saying? What does that really mean? We grew apart. I really think it comes down to each person must never forget that they are individually responsible for their own development and not the other person. So if you are having some shortcomings in some area, that's not your spouse's responsibility to fix.
Yeah.
I know that's a hard truth, and folk gonna say, well, you ain't married, but I was married. And trust me, what I'm saying to you, I'm just trying to help you. I think that is when we start talking about people stop growing together or they grow apart. At some point, a lot of times people start feeling like it's that other person's responsibility to make them happy, or they're supposed to do this for them. My sister said something. She said about the comparisons. You're talking about some things. She said comparison is the thief of joy. When you start looking outside of yourself and your relationship, comparing what you have to what other people have, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I really strongly believe that one of the things we have to continue to always do is take self accountability for how we are feeling. If you are feeling a certain way, even if you say, well, it's because he said this and he did that, well, you're the one angry though. Or you're the one frustrated. Or you're the one that's sad. So is it really that person's responsibility not to make you feel sad anymore? I know that's a hard truth, and it's a hard pill to swallow. And we'll say, but in marriage, we're supposed to complement and supplement each other. Yeah, but we're not supposed to be each other's source. Those of us that are believers, God is our source, right? God is our source. And we have to always take the level of accountability to say, hey, if I am feeling sad or angry, I have to really examine myself. Why is my response inappropriate? Because anger is not, we can't just say, just cut and dry and throw the blanket over and say, well, my anger is because of what he said and what he did. No, your anger could be because you haven't really fully developed patience. And because you know how we do, we want a certain level of understanding for our shortcomings, but are we giving it to the other person?
Well, and just kind of to tie it together, some sort of way, we're programmed to blame. Think about it as a kid. I have 3. You go in there, somebody knocks something over. Everybody did it. You ask one kid, it's his sister did it. The other kid, his brother did it. They're always pointing the blame. I, as a parent, I never taught them to say, hey, blame your brother, blame your sister. I never
Blame.
thought,
Right.
but instinctually, that's what our natural response is. So when you're talking about having spousal issues, or when you're not really aligning on things, it's easy to blame your spouse. Well, it's because of him. He doesn't do this, and he does that, and she's this and she's that. We're accustomed to just blaming the other person, somebody
Yeah.
else's fault, instead of
Yeah.
owning the things, like you were saying, owning things that we can control. I can't control how somebody feels about me, and it's taken me a long time to and I still sometimes struggle with that. It's hard
Yes.
to hear that. I can't control what somebody thinks of me. But if
Yeah.
there's things that I can do as a person, as a man, as a husband, and how I communicate with my wife, maybe I'm not communicating. Maybe I'm not sharing the vision of where we're trying to go, so she feels comfortable with that. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that I need to own on that part.
A good friend of mine, Russ, once said to me, and this has stuck with me for many years now. He said that we always have to be careful about making any decision when we're feeling frustrated, or making a decision when we feel angry, or making a decision when we feel depressed, or making a decision when we feel anxious. He said we have to just really be careful about making any decision when we're feeling a certain way,
Yeah.
and taking a pause moment. We call it stop the job, right? We got a process we call stop the job. And I think that if we could really practice taking those stop the job pause moments and self evaluation, I think that in itself will help give us the ability to really talk it out better sometimes. Because once the emotions start going and the voices start getting raised, and people get cemented in their position about on the particular conversation, it really still water stinks. When water stops flowing, and I think that I really do believe that the scripture, when it said that love covers a multitude of sin, I really believe that scripture is true. And so I think that many of us truly have a love problem, because our love is so based on how we feel, and our love is so based on reciprocal and emotional. I think we forget the actual action part of love.
Yeah.
That love requires that we forgive. That love requires, man, it's a hard conversation though, but come on, y'all. Love requires that we forgive. Love requires that we don't hold, we don't keep records of fault and blame. We know the Bible talks about love that is not easily offended. Love is not boastful. It's not arrogant or proud. And I think we oftentimes I think we lose perspective. That's a good way of saying it. Lose perspective on our whys. When I say whys, I'm talking about the WHY apostrophe S's. We lose perspective on our whys, and if we can get a handle back on those things and really begin to corral our emotions back, I think a lot of times we will be able to look inward and really see that a lot of times the things that we really get upset about is not as big of an offense as we may feel it is at the time, but it's often been compounded on stuff that we haven't talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's funny because, like, we talk about, like, just me. I'm not, like, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, I am working through this just like people that are listening right now.
Yes.
When you feel like you got hit in the back of the head with the board, it's kind of speaking to myself, some of this stuff. My wife's listening to this. So it's like, there are things like we talk about, like, your deepest thoughts, God knows all that stuff. I mean, there's the second person that knows you the best are the people that live with you. So you can put front
Ooh,
on
yes.
in the world and make it like everything's great, but deep down, your spouse knows, and they see that, and then also, unfortunately, our children see that, and they're going to mimic what they know. So that's one of those things that it's good to put it in check and get
Yeah. Yes.
some while you can before it just spirals out of control.
So Russ, before we wrap things up, I wanna really open up the floor. Just, is there anything that like is on your heart? I mean, it could be like dead on the topic, or it could be like where you feel like, well, this is kind of off topic a little bit. But I just really want to open up the floor, to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that just that we haven't covered in this conversation that you really want to address or talk about or share?
I don't have a whole lot. We talk a lot about, this is not, even if you're struggling as this kind of got into like more of a relationship, kind of a repairing thing. But at the end of the day, it does impact financial success. And you're either going to go through it together, or you're going to lose half of it and you're going to have to rebuild it. But at the end of the day, we talk a lot about just the first step is just trying to take the step forward, and the awareness aspect of it. And then
Yes.
there, it is a journey, and it's not going to be always perfect, but understanding that there's resources out there, and it might not even be us, but there are, James is a very knowledgeable person when it comes to giving recommendations on different channels. But ultimately, I'm maybe old fashioned, but I firmly believe that a lot of this is built on a foundation of a covenant of a marriage, and two people that love the Lord, that want to go through life together. And it's not always going to be fun and easy. There's going to be times of struggle, but understanding in that moment of weakness, the humility side of it, to be able to say, hey, I am struggling with X, Y, and Z, and then give the help to get better at it. It's one thing to just say, yeah, I know I'm a jerk, and then continuously be a jerk. That just because
Oh
it's a
man.
jerk doesn't give them the excuse to
Right.
always be a jerk.
Right.
So, being aware of that problem that you might have, and then ultimately trying to get it fixed and doing whatever you can, because ultimately that's going to help you in your journey towards financial wealth. And, maybe the next time we talk, we can get into a little bit more of like the stuff we were talking about earlier with
Yes.
resources and leveraging our assets and how we can use that. But ultimately, I think this is a good platform, because if your financial house is not in order, and it's not even your financial house, if your house isn't in order, if you have problems and you're struggling with your spouse, money isn't going to fix that.
Yes.
Money is not going to, it's not going to just fix and make your problems disappear. So if you have a communication problem, you can make $1 million a year. You're still going to have that communication problem. It's still going to cause problems in your own marriage, and ultimately that will impact whether or not it's you in the here and now, but it's going to have an impact on your family,
Yep.
and your children and their generations beyond that. So
Facts.
that's really all I have.
That's facts, man. Because it's interesting. One of these statistics that I saw when it talked about the women that were working outside of the home being unhappy, it actually said that the ones that had higher earning occupations and that had college degrees, it said a higher percentage of them were unhappy than the ones who didn't. So it tended to be the ones that had college degrees, higher, more educated, and earned more money. They were less happy than the ones that didn't, that earned less. So I agree with you, man, 100%. And what I want to say to encourage everybody is, if anything has kind of struck a chord with you in this conversation, look, once again, get help. It's nothing wrong with getting help. There are people that are counselors, therapists that do all types of work in terms of relationship building and counseling and working with couples. And the church folk gonna get mad at me, but I'm just trying to tell you, and I'm gonna try to help you. I wouldn't recommend going to your pastor. Let a quiet church say amen. Go and pay somebody for the help that you need in your relationship. I'm just saying, I would not recommend going to your pastor. Go get a professional. Go pay somebody, hire somebody, and find somebody that works for the two of you. Also, when it comes to the issues on money and finance, hire a financial advisor. Hello? Hire a financial advisor, a professional, to help you all to establish your plan.
Yep.
That's my advice. Find a professional, hire them. Get you some hope. Get you some hope. What do you think about that, Russ? I mean, hire a professional.
Yeah, no one knows it better than the professional. It's not your cousin's best friend.
Yeah.
Joey had a successful business. There's different thousands of different avenues that one can go out and become financially wealthy. And
Yeah, hire an accountant.
yeah, it's just making sure that your ducks are in a row when you are ready to get to that.
You'd be surprised how much stress it takes off of you hiring a professional.
Agree.
So that's our advice. Hey, we've had a great conversation, Russ. Thank you, bro. Hey, I'm gonna hold you to it. Are you gonna come back? You done froze up. I still hear your voice, but your face done froze up. Okay, we're gonna come back and have that conversation about leveraging and man, because that was a good conversation. So we're gonna get into some leveraging stuff on how you can leverage your credit and debt, and we're not gonna get into it tonight. But we know there's two sides of the coin. There's some people that are like the debt-free people. Stay out of debt. Get out of debt. Don't have no debt. And then there's the other side where people talk about debt's good, credit's good. So we're going to try to hopefully provide a happy medium and talk about some of the leveraging things and some strategies and tips that you can use, and being able to use credit and debt appropriately in a wise way to help you and to help your relationship and to help you to reach your financial goals. So, hey, if you've been watching on YouTube, do us a favor and press that subscribe button for the Porky People's Podcast. Like I say, all of us desire to build generational wealth and a financial legacy for our family. Press the thumbs up like button, share the video, drop some comments below, but most of all, ring that notification bell. And right here on my Facebook page, thank you all for joining in the conversation. Appreciate you for the comments in the comment section. Also, do me a favor, press the thumbs up like button on the video, press those hearts. Also, as you've dropped comments below, do me another favor, share this video. Let's see those shares. Can I get at least 5-10 shares? Can we get 10 shares out of this? Please, y'all, please. Can we get 10 shares? Can we get 10 shares? And also, if you're watching on the Working People's Podcast page, do the same. Share, like the video, press the heart button. And on Second Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Rodney Williams, do the same. Share the video, press that thumbs up like button, press the hearts. Thank you, Rodney Williams. Thank you, Second Friendship, the ship. We appreciate you all. If you know anybody that can use this conversation and some of the things we've talked about, that this will be valuable to them and their relationship and their marriage, share this video with them. I can't say it enough. Share this video with your friends and your family. But thanks for watching. But you know what? I got to go. Hey, we out.